In return for your tears, Jesus has given joy, so much joy. He mends the broken hearted, and the binder sin destroys. He destroys. In return for your tears, Jesus has given joy. Hello. Welcome to the KPP Kick, Push, Pull Transformational Life Podcast. I'm your lovely host, creator, and CEO, Summer D. Richardson. Listen, dealing with medical concerns and conditions are very challenging, and it's truly a faith journey. No month, no day, no year, even second is ever the same. And you have to say, many times I would say that I would break it down in 3 different phases when you find out that you have this severe medical condition or problem or challenge. There's the logical phase, which is pretty much your diagnosis from the medical professional. What are my options at this point? Is there a cure? And if there is a cure, what does that cure process look like? If there isn't a cure, what are my treatment options? And is this ongoing? Is this weekly? Is this monthly? I would say the next phase is the financial aspect. My goodness. Do I have medical coverage, insurance? How much out of pocket will I be out of for this particular cure or treatment from this medical condition? Then last is the psychological aspect. And that's the place where it affects your soul, will, mind, and emotions. So that's when you begin to examine, okay, how do I really feel? What are my real thoughts? And you actually put words, you give it language. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. I'm overwhelmed. I'm afraid, and I'm weary. So those are the 3 phases that I feel that most people go through when they find out that there's a medical condition or challenge that they're having to face. Now imagine, as an adult, that you have to go through these 3 phases. But what does that look like when you're a child, where you have a limited language, understanding, and even sometimes authority to speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself? Well, I feel it's such a privilege for today's episode that I have my good sister here today to talk about her journey and to help us understand what that looks like. Today's episode is entitled The Advocate. Now, I'm so happy, grateful, and excited to have my sister, Cassandra Johnson, better known as Sandy to her family and friends, here today to talk and tell us about how she's been advocating for her son, Khalil, for years when he was first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. But before she goes through and gives us her journey and story, I want to take a moment to really paint the picture of the kind of woman and the kind of advocator and the kind of mother that this woman is. First off, I want to give you the definition of what an advocator is so that you can actually take a journey with us and begin to imagine, even in your mind, if you've never had to deal with a medical condition, if you don't have any family or friends that have any issues and you haven't had to advocate, I want you to take a journey with us as I explain some of these terms so that you have a better understanding of the strong woman this lady is. She is resilient, patient. She has great strength, love, and discipline to be the ultimate advocator. But first, let me tell you what the definition of advocator is. According to Webster's definition, it is to speak, to plead, to argue. That's just to name a few things. It also is to act as an advocator, to argue for a cause, to be a supporter or a defender, one that pleads on the behalf of another or an intercessor. That's just to name a few things. Now, let me give you a few stats and a little bit of a background definition of type 1 diabetes. So oftentimes, and I would even say, Sandy, a lot of times, most people, you hear them talk about type 2 diabetes, right?
Yes.
And most of the time you hear people talk about, the older generation, speaking of our traditionalists, which are typically our grandmothers, grandfathers, and maybe some of our parents that may be in their 70s, 60s, and older. You hear them talk about, and let's keep it real, girl, and our African American is more like, they got the sugars.
Yes.
We got a little sugar problem, baby. I can't eat that much sugar or drink that much sugar. Give me a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi, right?
Right.
So, but really many people don't know and understand type 1 diabetes. So I just want to give you all just a little bit more information according to the CDC, what type 1 diabetes is, some of the stats and information before my sister begins to take us through the walk of the journey of her being an advocator for her son, who is a type 1 diabetic. So according to the CDC, type 1 diabetes, which used to be called juvenile diabetes, which still does sometimes, they're interchangeable for children that were diagnosed. But it is pretty much that type 1 diabetes is thought to be caused by an autoimmune reaction where the body attacks itself by mistake. And what it attacks the beta cells. And so your beta cells are positioned in your pancreas, okay? This process can go on many times for months or years, which is why often, and Sandy, you know, most people don't get diagnosed with diabetes for years or months, and they've had it going on. That's how long this disease can, run rampant through your body.
Yes.
And many times you can even attest to this, is that a lot of times there are people that find out once they've had a stroke,
yes,
a heart attack, and which we call like a diabetic episode or attack, or even sometimes that they have where they go into an actual coma, And so that's just to give you some idea of how severe type 1 diabetes can be. So along with that, if you have type 1 diabetes, your pancreas does not make insulin, or it makes so little insulin that it's hard for it to enter into your body. So without insulin, your blood sugars don't enter into the cell or into your body. And you need the blood sugars to enter into your cells in order for you to have energy. And that's just simple. Yes. The energy that we have, that we're able to wake up, walk, talk, function, all of those things. As a type 1 diabetic, when our bodies doesn't open up to receive the insulin, we have no energy at all.
Right.
We're often sick. You often hear a lot of people talk about how they have no energy, they're tired, they don't feel good. Well, this is why, because our cells are not receiving. And I say our because I myself, along with my sister's son, which again, she'll explain later, we're both diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Okay, so let's talk about, and we just kind of explained some of the some of the complications if you go on having diabetes, and this is type 1 or type 2 or gestational, and it's going untreated for years. You could end up with things such as a stroke, heart attack, heart disease, kidney disease, nerve damage, even amputation of the lower extremities like your toes, your legs. You can have vision and hearing loss. Oftentimes, a lot of our grandparents, you would hear often a lot of them when they had type 2 diabetes, they would end up having their feet amputated or their legs amputated slowly and then having to move up. Well, that's because of the nerve damage. It's because of the complications of untreated diabetes or not treated properly, diabetes can cause you. So let's take it a little further and give you a few stats about diabetes. So more than 37.3 million Americans have diabetes, which means that is about 1 in 10 people in the U.S. population have diabetes. Approximately 90 to 95% of them have type 2 diabetes. 5 to 10 of them of adults have type 1 diabetes, which is 1 in 5 that have that. According to in 2019, over 200,000 children were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And we spend, I need y'all to hear these numbers because we're going to talk about the financial aspect and the ramifications of having to deal with something like diabetes along with other health issues. We spend $327 billion, you all, okay, on medical costs and loss of work and wages for people that have been diagnosed as diabetics. So I just wanted to give you all a quick picture and an idea of what it is and what diabetes is, what it is to have a child, the things that my sister has had to face and advocate for her child. So first, I want to introduce her. This is Miss Cassandra Johnson, who is the mother of 2 children, Alexandria, right?
Yes.
And Khalil, who she is a proud mother of. 2 babies. She attended the University of Central Missouri and Lindenwood University. She was born and raised here right in the STL, y'all. And she has over 24 years of experience in the field of education. Her personal goal and mantra is to continue to stay in the present and appreciate life. And since I say after COVID-19, that's something we all need to have,
absolutely,
right?
Yes.
So she plans on starting a counseling center for at-risk youth, providing therapy services from a more holistic approach, which I love that.
Yes.
So look out, world. My girl is pursuing and living out her purpose, and she will be able to bless and continue to bless the lives of the next generation. So, sis, thank you. Now, her family and friends call her Sandy, and I feel like I'm kind of family and friends. We met actually at her cousin's, Cassie. Shout out to Cassie, who's the hairdresser, many years ago. And we would just talk and talk and talk and talk. And I mean, this is my girl. I love her to death. So with that being said, sis, I am so proud of you. Thank you, first off.
Thank you.
For agreeing to come on the show and really take us through your journey of being a mother and an advocator for your son. I'm proud of you. Your family loves you. Your community appreciates you. You not only do that, but you advocate for the next generation because you're an educator. Yes. So that alone is enough by itself. Okay. Yes. But I'm big, and my audience knows that I'm big on appreciating people now, thanking them now, loving on them now, instead of, if COVID taught us nothing else, love people now. That's right. Thank them now. Appreciate them now. Yes. So, sis, I'm giving you your flowers now.
Oh, okay.
And not later.
Oh, thank you. These are beautiful.
So thank you, sis.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for just, being a beautiful woman, boss chick. Like I said, your family loves you. Your community loves you. I appreciate you. So I'm giving your flowers now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So let's take this journey, sis. Okay. From the beginning. Tell us about your son and how and when you guys pretty much found out, and how old he was when you found out that he was type 1 diabetic or juvenile.
Okay. That's going back to when he was 4 years old. My son Khalil, 2012.
Okay.
Started to see some changes in some of his normal daily routines.
Okay.
One of the big changes that I noticed was that at 4 years old, Khalil was already potty trained. Mm-hmm. And so he started to urinate in the bed. That was the first red flag that I ever noticed. It was coming more and more like every night. Mm. And I said, this is something different.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that that began to, that excessive urinate. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we went on, that kind of went on. And then the next thing was he was extremely thirsty. Okay. I, as a mother, I was thinking, okay, you're urinating in the bed. Okay, we're cutting off drinks at such and such time.
Right.
We won't have an accident tonight. Okay.
Exactly.
So he woke me up one night and he was like, Mom, I'm thirsty. And when I actually sat up in the bed and I looked at him, I said, okay, this is something else here. Mm-hmm. So that was the second thing. The third thing, he used the bathroom on the floor, 4 years old. They make accidents.
Right.
And when I went in there to clean it up, it was sticky like syrup.
Wow.
And so I told my mother, and my mother said, okay, it's something. She said something else going on. So when I saw that, I said, okay, let's go to the ER. Okay, let's go to the ER. And so when we went to the ER, they then began to, check his urine for glucose, which is sugar.
Right, which is sugar.
And so they had found glucose in his urine. And so, and then they said, he needs to be transported to Children's immediately.
Oh, wow.
And so they transported him in the ambulance immediately, and we went on from there. Once we got there, then it just kind of went from there as far as his being diagnosed.
Okay.
And what was going to kind of go on.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. So 4 years old.
Yes.
The warning signs you saw were one, the
excessive urine.
Yes. Okay. So listen up, guys. I mean, you just never know sometimes, you know. People do, children, being a parent, you may think something's normal, but it's not all that normal, you know, especially if it's excessive. So excessive urine. And what was the other you mentioned?
Extremely thirsty.
Extremely thirsty. Okay.
And then for our family, it was the urine on the floor when I was cleaning up. It was just like as if someone had poured syrup out of a bottle.
Wow.
It was extremely sticky.
Okay.
And so a lot of parents may not experience that part of it.
Right.
But when I look back at Khalil and I look at some of the pictures before he was diagnosed, he just looked so tired in the face. He just looked, and even some of those pictures, I was like, okay, because every picture before that, I'm like, that was before Khalil had diabetes. Wow. And I kind of look at right before he was diagnosed. He just seemed like he just looked tired. Okay. His face just looked tired. Just this energy. And it looks like as if on different pictures I noticed.
Okay. And that's not normal for somebody's 4-year-old, right? Especially somebody with a
because 4 years old are full of energy.
Oh yeah.
Right. So,
and they say, of course, boy children really got a lot of energy. Yes. So that's not normal. Wow. Yes. Okay. So so they transported you guys and they got you to Children's Hospital. And so after that, they began to run more tests?
You know what? The only test that they really ran after that was to begin checking his blood sugar.
Okay.
And they said, okay, right now his blood sugar is 116. If we give him anything and it goes past 200, it's safe to say that he's being diagnosed as a diabetic.
Okay.
And so they gave him hamburgers and fries and it shot up to over 300.
Whoa.
And so they said, yes, we're going to go ahead and diagnose him as being a diabetic.
Okay.
And we're going to just move from there. Okay. And so then that's when we went on to be transported to a different floor. That's when we then went to endocrine. Because, when you talk about juvenile diabetes, that's autoimmune. So we have to see an endocrinologist. Okay. So it's part of the endocrine system.
Okay. So that was going to be my next step. So they did begin, I guess, to set you up with a medical team.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go into that then. Okay. So you mentioned the endocrinologist, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. You have your diabetes doctor.
Okay.
And then you have a team of nurses.
Okay.
And then you have the dietitian.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then so once the diabetes doctor, the nurses, the dietitian, and then they give you somebody to pair you up with kind of like a diabetes coach or educator.
Oh, great.
To give you, just to answer some of those just questions that the doctor may not be able to answer or the dietitian. And it's like some of the things like a support group.
Okay.
Different things like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And they did all that at Children's.
Yes. All of that was done at Children's and they pretty much covered all of that because we stayed over the course of 4 or 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because you have to, once you find out that your child has been diagnosed with diabetes, your next step is to begin to, they have to educate you on that.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So that they begin to tell you about high blood sugars, low blood sugars, carb counting.
Okay.
Just all of those different things that are going to entail with this lifelong journey.
Right. Because that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. A lifelong journey.
And so we just continue to attend the classes during the day.
Okay.
And they just will continue to monitor Khalil. And that's how that went. Yeah.
Okay. So once, so he was there for 5. So did he get released after 5 or 4 days back home?
After they felt like we were educated enough to know how to count carbs, how to check blood sugars, how to give insulin, those different things. They said, okay, you're ready to go home, but we have to go home with the you call that children's number and talk to the doctor anytime you think it's something other than what it is. Like if it's really high blood sugar, you don't know what to do, you need to call.
Okay.
And that is a number that I still use today.
Okay.
That endocrine number where you call them all the time, because the one thing you will know about juvenile diabetes, and I apologize if I'm kind of jumping ahead, but
you're fine, sis. Oh, go ahead.
It all seems like it's perfect. The blood sugars are good. It's no sickness. It's everything. And then all of a sudden something spins out of whack with the body.
Yeah.
And so, you're just at a point where you're right back calling them again.
Yeah. So like you said, it's a journey. There's ups and downs. Like you said, one moment he's doing fine, right?
Yes.
Blood sugars are great.
Yes.
And then the next moment
they drop low, and then you're at a low. And so the blessing about Khalil is, even at 4, he knew when he was low. And what I mean when I say low, I mean a low blood sugar.
Okay.
And that's, that's below 80 for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Which means you pretty much, you're shaky, you don't feel good.
Yes.
It's just this weird overall feeling where you just feel like you're about to pass out pretty much.
Yes.
And so at 4,
he
felt as though,
and when I would ask him, I would say, he would say, Mom, I feel heavy. And I would say, you feel heavy? What do you mean? He said, my legs feel heavy. My arms feel heavy. And so the first time, his dad and I didn't know.
Okay.
And then the second time he said it, we were like, okay, when he says he feels heavy, that his blood sugar is low. And so that's when we begin to tell him, Khalil, when you feel that way, you're low. Your blood sugars are low, and you need to let us know that.
Okay.
So then he was able to say, okay, Mom, I'm low. Dad, I'm low.
Wow.
But that was the first time he said, Mom, I feel heavy. Yeah. Okay. And I said, what do you mean? He said, my legs feel like I can't move them. My arms feel like I can't raise them up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I can't move.
Wow. Okay.
And so, but again, it's the journey. A lot of kids may not know that at such a young age.
True.
Or even be able to, even communicate that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was. So even with that, as far as him being even 4 and actually being able to say something isn't right, what advice would you even give to parents? Because sometimes kids say little stuff from parents, you're so busy and caught up on everything. It's kind of like, you'll be all right. And you ignore. What would you say to another parent? Like, okay, y'all don't understand. Like, what advice would you give?
I think you're saying advice if you just had a child that's been diagnosed, or possibly have some concerns.
Yeah, more concerns because they've keep saying some of the same things. Yeah,
I would always say it's better to be safe than sorry.
Okay,
because I think that if I wouldn't have taken Khalil to the ER, well, God knows where we would have been.
Yeah.
And so, I oftentimes remember the team we came in with.
Okay.
It was like 5 other parents 5 other couples whose kids had been diagnosed, and we were all in there together at the same time.
Wow.
And one couple was sharing how their kids, her blood sugar was 600.
Oh my God.
Another couple shared that their son passed out after a game.
Okay.
And so I think one thing is to listen.
Okay.
You have to listen to your kids a lot, oftentimes, and then it's best to be safe than sorry.
That's
just
good.
check it out. And you rather check it than not know it. You know what I mean? Because it's something you can't look at a child and know that they have diabetes.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying be proactive and then check, go get it checked out.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. And it's like, we hear kids say a lot of stuff.
Yes.
My head hurt, my arm, I can't move my leg. But it's like, it's like, okay, I need you to, some of the things, it's like when you hear them saying, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, different things like that. And sometimes Khalil will go low, and it's like, I have to ask him because he's low and he's looking around like he does not know where he is. And so I go through the questions. You know where you are.
Okay.
You know your name. You know, because they can get just that low. And sometimes your kids can be low like that and you not know. So when you see your kids looking strange, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking like that?
Right.
It may be signs that you need to check out.
Yeah.
And calling your regular doctor, your regular medical doctor.
Yeah.
And he will get you to the steps where you need to be.
Yeah.
But I definitely would not, if you're starting to see some of these things and as you're listening or watching and you're like, okay, that was kind of going on, this is kind of going on, please get to your doctor and get it checked out.
Yeah. That's good. That's good, sis. Thank you. Yeah, because like you said, I can't imagine sometimes, kids will complain about everything. But like you said, if there's something they keep saying it or they're looking kind of weird, it's better to be listen, one. I like that. And then better safe than sorry, even if it's just a phone call to that doctor or going to that ER just to be certain.
Because it's nothing to get their finger pricked and get a blood sugar reading. Right. And we rather have that than nothing at all.
Right. Yes. And then you're in the, it's a year later and you're in the emergency room.
That's right.
Your baby's now in a diabetic coma.
Yes.
Yes. So no, that's good, sis. Yeah. Yes. That's really good advice. Yeah. So along with the medical team that you talked about, so as he began to, so what was that conversation? So when he was 4 and he was diagnosed, did you guys get a chance to really sit down and explain it to him, or did the doctors help through that process, or it was just like he's too young to really get it, or do you remember anything?
Yes,
no, so long ago.
But at 4, and this is why I tell Khalil still today at 14, I say you're one of the strongest people that I know, because even at 4, it was kind of like, Khalil, we have to give you these shots 3 times a day.
Okay.
Every day. For the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay.
Woo.
And and it was like, even the doctors were like, he didn't flinch, he didn't move. So, we are constantly thankful for that. Because we had some of the room he shared with one boy, he was 12, I think, but he just couldn't. He was afraid, wow. And so just kind of breaking it down and going through that with him. And was like, okay, Khalil, certain things you can't eat like you used to eat them.
Right.
You can't have a Snicker and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just eat it. You have to check your blood sugar now. We have to check this for you. We have to go. And so we were constantly trying to explain it to him and go through it. And you know what? Believe it or not, from 4 years old all the way up until puberty, Khalil has been very acceptive of diabetes, of having that chronic illness, of doing what he needs to do. He was very responsible, but right when that puberty hit, it's different. And I know we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Right.
I know
that
we'll
change
talk about that more.
Yeah.
But I just think we just were constantly talking with him and just telling him, Khalil, okay, these things are going to be different.
Right.
But, the adjustment for the kids adjust all the time. Adjustment was for the parents.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to go there in just a second. Let's talk about, because I know I talked about the logical piece where we talk about the diagnosis, what that process is like. Let's go on now to about the financial piece in terms of insurance coverage. And so did you find yourself where the insurance was covering majority, or that you guys have to come out of a lot out of pocket? Did you have to fight insurance companies? Because you often hear stories about people, especially adults, you don't always hear about when children have those severe medical conditions like diabetes, type 1 diabetes, how they need certain medications like insulin to survive.
Yes.
And then an insurance company is fighting you on covering, a percentage of it. And it's like, if I don't have this, my child will die.
Yes.
Like, did you have any struggles or any issues with insurance, or even seeing the endocrinologist? Because I know specialists tend to be more expensive.
Yes.
And many people, if you see heart specialists or, cardiologists or endocrinologists or, any of the specialists, they tend to cost a much more than your regular primary care physician.
Right.
And so imagine you not adult, but you're having a child that you have to do this with.
Yes.
So did you find that you had problems with insurance companies?
Overall, it's at times it's extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
Just because it's always changing. No one sends you any updates. The insurance never sends you an update and says, we're no longer using these syringes.
Oh, right.
We're no longer accepting, we're no longer using this insulin.
Oh,
we're no longer accepting giving these strips. We're using this. And so it's always changing, and you don't know until you go to get your monthly refills of all the diabetic supplies that you need.
Right.
You get there and they bring you a different box and you're like, okay, where's the syringes that we've been using?
Right.
Well, the insurance no longer covers those. Well, when was I going to know?
Right.
And it's like, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's just, it's constantly changing and nobody gives you updates. And so I think the first piece, when Khalil was first diagnosed, I'll be honest with you, Khalil didn't have medical insurance at that time.
Okay.
He was on my insurance at work, switched over. We all switched over to Dad's.
Yeah.
And then we were in the process of saying, well, okay, we're going back to mine. And then this happened.
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah.
I had to go through and then get him medical coverage.
Okay.
Well, the first thing they say is it any chronic illness?
Exactly. Yep.
And, and a lot of times these insurances will deny.
Yeah.
Or, or say, well, if it's chronic illness or something going on. So that was kind of a struggle at first. But one of the social workers at the hospital, they kind of walked us through the steps of how to go about getting the right insurance, getting the right coverage to make sure that he has everything he needs. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but yes, it can be frustrating on a monthly basis because you get diabetic supplies monthly. It's extremely frustrating, but you get to the point where even when I'm driving up to Walgreens, I'm like, I know it's going to be some foolishness on this month, but we can't not say we're not going this month.
That's
because it's life or death for your child.
Yeah.
But you just, you just take it all in stride and you continue. But yes, you're going to get those constant changes, and you're going to get insurance companies that know that child is a diabetic, or and they're going to keep raising up sometimes the rates, the premium. You know how it goes,
the premiums,
because they know you have to have that those supplies to stay alive. So if they raise it from $52 a month to this a month to that a month, they know you're going to either pay or go somewhere else. And a lot of times they won't accept you anywhere else.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's, it can be frustrating.
Right.
I think that's that other whole piece to that puzzle where you're talking about that financial piece.
Yes.
Where it's extremely stressful and frustrating. And it's like, you have to have information and talk to those social workers with your team or whomever that can help you out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. So definitely for those parents out there, just having the right team.
Yes, having the right team. Continue to connect with your diabetic team.
Okay.
Wherever your child was diagnosed, and continue to talk to them and just let them know these are some of the concerns that I'm having. Because I'll be honest, they hate to see me coming.
I love
They're
it.
like, here come Khalil mama.
That's okay though.
You know what I mean? Here come Khalil mama. Get your notepad out. Because I walk in with a notebook. Okay, this month, this is what we
Yeah.
And then we go and we handle that, and I check it off.
That's right.
Okay, next thing. And I need to, and you have to do that because, as you said, when you're advocating for your child, you have to, it's like, you know what? We're not taking no back doors and around the corners. I need this stuff to go on right now.
That's right. Absolutely.
And I need it to be correct.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I would even say, sis, just not being fearful.
Yes.
I don't care if I'm getting on your nerves.
Yes.
This is my child, and I need to know, all this information with medicines, if things are going up, what is happening.
Yes.
Constantly, because your child depends upon this medicine and this information to make sure he or she is living. So absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. So let's talk from a mother's perspective.
Okay.
So And we talk, all about the advocating piece and just going in and making sure you've got your tools, you got your team set up, that you're communicating with your baby and all of those things. I know he's not a baby anymore, so sorry, Khalil. But I would say let's go back, sis. Let's go back. So do you recall, when you first found out, everything that they told you and, when you actually understood, like you talked about, that here's the team and they're explaining everything. And this is actually a lifelong journey for you. What was your feelings? Did you have guilt, shame, blaming yourself?
I think, first of all, I was just confused because, as you talked about earlier, when someone said diabetes to me and your son's a diabetic, I thought about grandma. And I was like, I said, oh, because Khalil got sugar.
Yeah.
And I was like, Khalil got sugar. He ain't going to be able to eat a lot of cake. And,
right.
But then when they explained to me, okay, his pancreas is not producing any insulin. It's only producing a little right now. And after about another maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it won't be producing any. And then I sat there and I was like, so when will it start back? Because because it's new.
Yeah.
And they said, no, once it stops, it does not, those beta cells, it's it. That's it. And so I said, so with diet and exercise, this will be gone?
Right.
Well, no. And that was the part when I think it hit me like, wow, my baby's going to have this for the rest of his life. Yeah. And that part kind of took me somewhere. And I apologize if I get emotional. But I think that was just that piece where when I began to realize, okay, this is going to be something for us. Yeah, this is going to be a ride. Yeah. And so, that piece of understanding. But I think once I realized that, I was like, wow. Because see, my aunts, my mom, it was 9 of them and it's 6 women and 5 of the 6 had diabetes and they had it at an early age.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, my different aunts. So we always knew about diabetes and sugar. Right. But to that type, when you're talking about type 1, you're talking about something totally different.
Right.
So that was the thing that really, like you said, once I had to actually wrap my mind around that. Yeah. But I'm going to be honest with you, I had a lot of emotional days of just... because mama don't really get nowhere to break down and cry. No. Mama got to go to the bathroom and shut the door. Yeah. Everybody, I'm in the bathroom like boo-hooing. Like, okay, let me get myself together, hit it again. Yeah. Because I think that first time when we got home and I had to give him that shot, it was like, I was more nervous than he was. He was like, do it, mommy. I was like, all right, Khalil, wait a minute. Yeah. So, and I oftentimes say, so as I began to just kind of work through that, but that was emotional for me. Yeah. But I did reach out to a support group. Okay. Just to be able, other parents that were there that are also have children that have diabetes. And that was kind of helpful for me in the beginning. Okay. But then I just realized it's just an ongoing thing every day just to make sure. But it was a lot of days of being angry. First, very emotional, as in crying, upset, angry. And then I kind of started to, okay, get off pity place. Okay. It's time. Come on. I got you. You can't stay here. Yeah. You can't live here. Yeah. You can't live on Crybaby Circle. Yeah. You got to move on. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, Sam, you got to get it together. Yeah. You got to get it together. And I'll be honest with you, his dad, he struggled with it a lot longer. Just because I'm a man, that's my son. Yeah, that male thing. And it was hard for him. And he struggled a lot with it. But as I just started to, it's like, okay, we got it. This is something we do every day. And then I've just been pushing ever since. Now, do I still have emotional days? Absolutely. Because as we start to talk about, later on, we'll talk about him in puberty and what that looks like, but yes, and then my faith was like, I had to, that's when you have to really begin to turn this background noise down and really turn God up in your life.
Yes.
Because you're not going to be able to make it through without it. So I had to, praying, just constantly just talking to God and just really really saying, okay, I need you to walk with me.
Right.
And some
God.
days carry.
Yeah, that part.
And yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah. Yeah. I just, when you were talking, I remember you were talking about the first time that you had to give him a shot.
Yeah.
And so, and like I said, everybody knows I'm a type 1 diabetic as well. I was much older than Khalil, teenager for me.
Okay.
But I remember similar, me and my mom, my mom, and we're at the doctor's office. We're in the doctor's office and I don't know if I've actually said this public before, but we're at the doctor's office and I'm old enough, of course. So they're showing me how to start giving myself those insulin shots with the regular syringe back then.
Yes.
We didn't have all those fun gadgets and starting off that we got now. But I just remember like having to, pretty much dab and stab myself in the stomach. And it even hit me as a teenager. And even my mom, she was absolutely trying to stay strong.
Yes.
She's crying and she like, baby, are you all right? You got it? You need me to do it for you? And I'm like, mama, no, I got to learn to do it myself.
Yes.
But I can't even imagine. I mean, at that moment, I was so caught up. And when you just talked, I'm like, my mama was probably heartbroken.
Yes.
Here it is. I got big dreams and things that I can see and that I want for my baby. And I've got expectations.
Yes.
And I, realistically speaking, don't know if my baby's going to be able to do all these things that she talked about and that I saw in my mind.
Yes.
So even for yourself, was there like some expectation, especially since he was 4?
Yes.
I was, like I said, I was a teenager. So, but being 4, even that part, was there expectations that you had in your mind that you were like, I saw him doing certain things and now I'm not sure if my baby's going to be able to do all the things that maybe I see other little boys doing, such as sports or things of that sort.
Yes.
What was that like, or how did that?
I think that I started out saying that, I thought that it was going to hinder him from just being independent as he grew older, playing the sports, going to school on a regular basis. Because I'll be honest, in the beginning, Khalil had to change schools because there was no full-time nurse at the private school he attended when he was in pre-K. Just different things that we never thought he was changing schools. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, and then we don't really even going to summer camp. They were like, we don't really do the diabetes thing. I heard that several times. Like, no, we don't, not here. No, if you could come up and dose him. I'm like, well, that's the whole point of dropping him off at summer camp. So as I began to, those were kind of the letdowns for me. Those were kind of the things I expected. Like, okay, he's going to be able to do these things like other kids, but he can still do them. But it's like, you have to have a plan in place.
There you go.
That plan has to be in place. And it has to be to a point where everybody is on the same, on the same page, as in, okay, if this happens, this needs to happen. If this happens, this needs to happen. Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, I think once you get over that shock and then you begin to understand, because now, diabetes is, I'm not going to make it like it's all good, but it's a lot better than what it was even 10 years ago. Yeah. When he got definitely. So now people are like, okay, we have this in place. We have people trained. We have, so if you want to attend the summer camps, want to attend different things, you can. Okay. At that time, people were like,
what is that? What is diabetes? Type 1, huh? What do you mean? Right.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So let's talk about, let's go there about the, the shifting. Now that Khalil, big 14, right?
Yes.
Big 14. So now your hands have had to be released a little bit more, in terms of trusting him. So So go ahead, Cynthia. Tell us that. Take us through that journey a little bit.
So I thought that once he got to a point, because I'm thinking like, okay, Khalil, we've trained you now from 4 and 5, all through the years. So right around 12, 13, you're going to be like a pro at this.
Right.
Well, what we noticed was, and now he was diagnosed by Dr. Abby Hollander at St. Louis Children's. I don't even know if she's still there, but she was very straightforward in telling us, now, these things look great. Khalil's A1C would be good. His numbers would be pretty good.
Yeah.
And she said, but when he gets to puberty, you're going to see a complete shift where you're going to see numbers that look like they're good. Then they shoot out of whack. Sometimes they drop low. She said, you're going to see all types of changes because he is a male, 1. And 2, he is, a diabetic.
Yeah.
And so it's going to send his hormones even more out of whack. And those hormones are going to then affect his numbers, his everything.
Yeah.
So, every time something goes out of whack now, his dad is like, this is what they told us. So this is what we need to start preparing for, and at Khalil's school when he was in the 6th grade, so right around 12. The nurse called me one day, and I thank God for her, because she said, okay, this kid, the kid that I saw in August, I see somebody different now. And I said, what do you mean? She said, he doesn't want to bring his supplies. He doesn't want to bring his things to the nurse. I asked him, did you do? He's like, I didn't bring it. Sometimes he doesn't go. Because, he has during school at lunchtime, go down, check his blood sugar. Okay, what'd you eat for lunch? Give her the carb count.
Okay.
And then
so there's a whole routine set up for him. So
you have to have that.
Okay.
Every day. And so then she says, okay, these are the amount of carbs you ate. They add it up. And then, though that's the amount of insulin he gets.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, she said, some days I have to go find him. Some days, and I was like, wow. And so I had never heard that. So, of course, when we went, I called diabetes. I said, okay, the nurse is saying she has some concerns.
Yeah.
They said, it sounds like, he's in diabetic burnout. Okay.
Diabetic burnout.
Okay. And remember that this is when kids, juvenile diabetics, have been diagnosed at such an early age, and they continue to deal with it. And what happens is they just begin to shut down about the entire process. And so that's some of the things she was explaining to Khalil.
Okay.
Took him into endocrine, and they ran a series of tests. I think they asked Khalil 10 questions. They screened him. He had 7. 7 of them were answered that let them know he was in diabetic burnout. Okay. They immediately said, okay, he needs to start communicating with someone, talking to them, and just beginning to just express some of his concerns. That's when I said, Khalil, do you think you would benefit from a support group? He said, yeah, just to be able to talk to somebody who's like me, Ma.
Okay.
He didn't
have anybody or know anybody.
And at the time, it was nobody at Khalil's elementary school with diabetes.
Right.
It was nobody in his middle school with diabetes. So he never, he was never really around anybody else. Okay. And so, they went through that.
Okay.
And they just kind of start working with him and allowing him to talk to them and those different things. Yeah. So on that piece of it, it was like he just began to shut down. Well, now when we're talking about his physical piece or about diabetes, it's like Khalil can be 134. And in 10 minutes, he's like, Mom, I'm low. And I'm like, what are you? She's like 41. And you're like, what in the world? What just happened?
Right.
He's like, well, I was just outside shooting some ball. But see, that's the puberty. It's the highs, the lows, the just like about 3 weeks ago, Khalil was low like maybe 3 or 4 times a day. And I was like, man, should we call endocrine and have them adjust his numbers?
Right.
Well, they say the same thing. Well, he's in puberty. What is he doing to go low?
Okay.
And then, you tell him just simple things like the other day, he was just in his room dancing with the music on. I think he was like 56. And I'm like, Khalil, so that's what you see in that puberty piece. You're going to see the body just go to a point where you're like, okay, everything you thought you had in place,
right,
it's just going to shift. And so his numbers, his mood and attitude towards diabetes.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care. I don't want to do this. I don't want to take shots anymore. I don't want to check my blood sugar. So that's where we also get that dishonesty piece.
Yeah.
Where I was thinking, oh, cool, I can kind of get on autopilot now.
Right. I can
kind of kick back. I can pull back a little bit. Now I'm on him even more than I was because, Khalil will make up numbers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Numbers he knows that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
And so,
good at right.
You 236. I say, you check your blood sugar? Yeah. What was it? I was 110. It's like you just pull a great number.
110,
yeah,
right. 110 is really good, right?
That's a really good blood sugar.
Right.
So, I have to find myself, even the Lantus. Lantus is long-lasting insulin.
Right.
That's the insulin that releases into your system throughout the day to regulate your numbers.
Exactly. You are. A lot of people are on it. Even people that have type 2 diabetes, a lot of people take Lantus.
Okay.
As well.
And so he takes his Lantus every night, and he'll for a while I was letting him keep it in his room. So my timer goes off. Khalil, you take your Lantus? Yeah, no Lantus. Yeah, no Lantus. So if you don't take Lantus at long lasting, that's what can cause that's more dangerous than anything, because what happens is you begin to first they have ketones, and about that, the ketones, and that is where they have to urinate on that stick, and then if it doesn't get corrected, they go into ketoacidosis. That can be fatal.
Yes, it absolutely can. You can be out of here for that.
So yes, that puberty piece. And I kept thinking, is it just us? Now, you mean tell me other kids, nobody else lying about this?
Right.
So, okay, I talked to one of my coworkers, her son. She said, girl, he make up numbers. And I said, what do you mean? She said, he makes up perfect numbers. I said, thank God I'm not the only. We're not the only.
Right, we're not alone.
And so that's what made me kind of, because before I was like, Khalil, I hope I have to put my hands on you.
Right. Old school.
Right. Hey, do I have to hurt you, boy, behind you making up stuff? Right. This is dangerous.
Exactly, right.
I told her this is like life and death.
Right, baby, right. You got to tell me the truth.
So when she told me that, I was like, well, I remember getting in the car after work, like, okay.
This is something, it's not just my baby. It's other.
And then Matt, which is a nurse practitioner at St. Louis Children's, he's also a type 1 diabetic, but he's an adult now.
Okay.
And that is who Khalil's on his team. Good. So he sees Khalil all the time. Okay. So he said, Mom, I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to lie about everything. Wow. And so he said, so everything he does, you have to go back and check behind him right now.
Oh, wow.
Man, so everything I checked. So now.
Everything right now. Okay.
Everything.
Okay.
And that has been now for the last probably 6 or 7, 8 months, and we should have been checking long before that, because we probably wouldn't have been at because his A1C was like very high the last time.
But this is why now because he hadn't been taking his medicine.
Yes, hadn't been
even though he had been lying saying he had it.
And also on his meter, when they took his meter to just
download it,
and see his numbers. He's like, well, one day he only checked it once. Another day it was like twice. Another day.
God.
And those are the days you're like, yeah, I checked it. It was, not only are you not checking, but then you're making up numbers when you do check.
Exactly.
So everything now, it's like everything I have to now go back and just make sure.
Okay.
It's just, and because they just, and like Matt said, at that age, he can't be trusted. Not right now, not during this time, because he's at a time where it's like, I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I want to hang out with my friends or do something else or be on the game.
Right.
And he just doesn't want to do it. Wow. So if you have a diabetic child that's in that puberty stage, just get ready for some of the things. And I don't know if every child will do that.
Right.
But a lot of kids are struggling with that.
Yeah. Wow. And I didn't actually know that, especially and even with the male children. A lot of times you hear about hormones for us females all the time, but you don't really hear about that the male, struggle with that as well.
Yes.
And with the diabetes and the combination of all of that and the burnout part, which is true. I mean, he was 4 years old, so that is a lot, and he's just 14.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a journey and a struggle. So just like my sister mentioned, every child might not have that experience, but as a parent, it's you don't want to take your hands completely off.
No,
you want to still make sure and check, that they're handling their business, taking whatever medicines they're taking, and being consistent with it,
Yes.
But I do think I'm thank God that you got an amazing team.
Yes.
From it sounds like the nurse at the school.
Yes.
And I know you talked about a few times where you had to change schools. So so what has been his school, practice for you, or have you had to come in like, listen, I need this, and this, and this,
Yes.
What has been that journey part?
Before he starts school every year, the school requires that that plan, that diabetic plan in place. It has to be in place. This is what we do. This is what he has.
Okay.
This is what we do if he goes low. This is what we do. So Khalil has all these different accommodations.
Okay.
Like frequent restroom breaks.
Okay, good.
He can carry a water bottle around, which all the kids are carrying them now because the water fountains have a big do not use because of the
COVID.
Pandemic.
That's true.
So, So he can have as much water as he wants, use the restroom, and then he's able to go to the nurse whenever he needs to.
Okay.
And so he has things in place, like if he goes low, certain, foods he can eat and those different things.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
but they have to have that in place to know, okay, this kid has this medical condition. This is what we do for him. And these are the accommodations he has. Okay. And that has to be in place every year. And that's at whatever school, I think public school.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you about. So so since he's, he was 4 when he first got diagnosed, he's 14. So has that always been your experience where the schools have been like, I need that or did you have to go in and say, okay, my child's a type 1 diabetic, just FYI? Or did they say, oh, we have stuff in place already?
Yeah. Once you fill out that medical part of the enrollment, then that's when they know, okay, he's a diabetic. And then they're like, okay, this is what we need. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's what we need.
Okay.
And so it's always been that way because he's always been with the same school district. After he was, we took him out of that pre-K, private pre-K, because they didn't have a full-time nurse. Wow. And so after that, he was in public school the entire time because, public schools, it's a nurse in place.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas a lot of the private schools, the funding, and different things like that.
Yeah, where they can't necessarily afford. Yeah, it depends. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Or she floats through some of the other private schools. Right. She's here on Monday and Wednesday. And then she's somewhere else on Tuesday, Thursday. Okay, you know what I mean?
And in that case, he would need to actually go to the nurse's office and make sure he handles.
Yes.
Okay.
And especially he needs to be somewhere where if he goes low, that nurse knows what to do.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did have children's come in and did an in-service with his elementary school. This was years ago. Where this is how you know if a child is low or if they're high. Wonderful. Or how to check blood sugars or do different things like that.
Oh, so, wow. Yeah. Okay. So you partner with them to come in and for the teachers?
For the teachers. Okay. Anybody that's there, they say, okay, because everybody needs to be able to know that. Yeah. The librarian, the PE teacher, the art teacher, music, everywhere where that kid's going to be in the school. Yes. We need to know what's going to go on with him. Right. Because if this goes down, we need to know what to do. Exactly. And so I had them come into the school.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That was wonderful. Yeah. That was, because, it gets very tricky with diabetes.
But they will do that. Your team, all you have to do is just ask your team. Okay. And they will say, okay, we have that in place.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And when I say your team, I mean your diabetic team. Okay. Yeah.
And they would come into whatever your child's school district that they're in and come and actually do a in-service and teach them.
Because, here it's only St. Louis Children's and Cardinal Glennon. You only got 2 children's hospitals. You only have 2 hospitals for kids here in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
So either your kids are through Cardinal Glennon or St. Louis Children's.
And that's it.
That's it.
Okay. Wow.
And you don't, so both of them will do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of them will do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So speaking of that, just, get into the education part, and you mentioned, so in terms of resources and things of that sort. So I like that. That was good. Is there anything else that you would suggest maybe? Like, so for example, I can ask some of the questions almost in closing, basically, that, being an educator yourself, a mother of a type 1 diabetic, and being an advocator, what, if an administrator says, hey, I've been having an influx of children coming in from having diabetes to maybe having severe asthma problems to maybe even some of the kids are having, cancer, things of that sort. And especially with COVID rampant, all of that stuff. And they're like, people are not, teachers, students, staff are not as, sensitive or willing to work with the kids as much as we need. And I know they want to make somebody special than the other children, but the accommodations is different.
Yes.
It truly is different.
Yes.
What would you suggest? Like, what would you tell that, principal administrator over that school that he or she could do to maybe try to help, that situation out? Or
well, first, I just want to say, if you are a parent of a child with a chronic illness, I would really recommend that you reach out to special school district and get a 504 in place.
Okay.
And a 504 is what's going to include those medical modifications and accommodations where your child, say for instance with Khalil, that's in place for him. Okay. That's in his paperwork where he has to go to the restroom. He has to go to the nurse. He has to, because like Khalil, I don't want him, if he's getting ready to take an assessment at school, his numbers have to be in a certain range. If so, he doesn't need to take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's just like if his numbers are low.
Yeah.
I don't want you, Khalil can't even, he's looking around like he don't even know where he is. Why would you test him?
Right.
I need, so those are the things you need to have in place.
Okay. So one more time.
504.
504.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can also continue to reach out to, and I guess if you're out of state, it would be the diabetes.
Whatever American Diabetes Association.
Yes. And they are great about connecting you with advocates that will help you, that will come in, sit in these meetings with you,
right,
and begin to walk you through this, because it can be overwhelming as a parent.
Yeah, it definitely can.
Right now, we are struggling to have him change that diagnosis to OHI, which is other health impaired. Okay. And that's what's going to include a lot of those things, and also include any educational piece that comes along with that. Okay. You know what I mean? So that is just something I recommend to the parents. Just continue to reach out. But as far as what I would say to principals, I would tell them that they need to partner with Children's Hospital or whatever hospital is in place in your state or city, and begin to get someone out to talk with them, to do those in-service trainings and those different things, just to begin to do that. And also with the kids, we are always doing character education with the kids and kindness counts. And different things like that. And I would just say, allow the kids to make sure that they understand. And you don't have to tell all their business, but just make sure, okay, they're different. And sometimes, because Khalil attended a school and they're predominantly African-American, but he had a lot of people always looked out for him. But one boy, he was so taller than everybody else. And I remember I came in one time, he was like, "You Khalil, Mom?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah, if he goes slow, I'm the one that walks him to the nurse." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And even now when I see him at 14, because he still lives in the same neighborhood, same school. Yeah. He's like huge. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? So, I always wave at him, because I thought that was cool, because he didn't have to do that.
No, right.
Yeah. Right. So, just making sure the kids connect and, do those different things.
Yeah,
but,
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Really good information
Yeah.
for sure. For that. I don't even know if a lot of parents even know that those 504s exist and really, getting that information, and then just the character classes and education piece for the students. And then even partnering with the local children's hospitals wherever you live, having them to come in and do the in-services. I think that is definitely very beneficial for everybody, for sure. So I guess in closing, one last question, sis. And thank you again. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
This has been phenomenal. This information, you've been dropping nuggets the whole time. I know that there are people out there that are like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Thank you for that information, and they're really appreciative. So just, in closing, as far as the last question I got for you, sis, in terms of people, who they're your family member, friend, your spouse, significant other, and they want to be supportive to you, to a parent that has a child like that has type 1 diabetes, in that effort. And people mean well, but they can sometimes say some of the craziest stuff. And we know that. We've probably all been guilty and was like, why don't I just ask that person that? When you walk away, just in dealing with different things, what, and the person's like, well, I want to be supportive. I want to be there. And it's like, so what advice or what would you say? How could someone be supportive to a person like yourself or anybody else or any other parent that maybe, like I said, type 1 diabetes is huge. That's us, but there's also other conditions that kids have. And it's a journey. It's a journey. So what would be your advice?
I think when you talk about diabetes, a lot of people are nervous because you're talking about a syringe and drawing up a syringe or giving a shot or putting some calculations into your
those insulin pumps. That I got.
So I think one of the things you can do is get trained. If you are in a family and someone in your family has diabetes as a child and you want to be supportive to those parents, get trained that if mom needs 2 or 3 days to just release and distress, get trained so you can say, okay, pack his bag up, pack those things up. I am trained and I know what to do. I know how to check blood sugars. I know how to administer insulin, whether it's through the pump or with the syringe. And I know what to do. If this baby goes low with me, I know what to do. If this baby is too high, I know what to do. Get trained to be supportive because I know, like in my family, nobody's trained. Just to be honest, his dad and I know what to do. But if we leave Khalil somewhere else, not now because he's 14. Right. But at that time it was like, yeah, you coming back over here to give me a shot, ain't you? That's
right. Yeah.
You ain't leaving him.
You ain't leaving too long, right? Right. What time you coming back?
He got all this stuff if he go low.
Right. He know what to do.
And oftentimes my brother will say, I want to take him to this birthday party. You want to ride? Because when all that stuff go down, and it's not. I laugh about it because I'm at a place where I am at that other stage of it, and I understand. But if you are just starting out, get trained, be a support system, because a parent of a juvenile diabetic, that's what they need. They got the doctors and everything, but we need someone in place in our family to help us get trained, know how to do everything. So you can say, hey, I know you need a breather. I know you need a minute. Even if it's a couple of hours, drop them off. We're good. And I just want to shout out Cassie too. I know we talk about, Cassie will oftentimes, back when the boys were young, We going skating, you know. I'm gonna pick Khalil up. He got all his stuff, you know. She was pretty much one that kind of jumped out there, like, you know, my other cousins. I had, you know, my other cousins, Tanisha, they were kind of too.
Like,
shout out to them, like, okay, now you drop them off, you know, we know what to do. So I just appreciate, you know, just my different family members who are constantly supportive of, you know, that situation. But yes, that's how you help the parents of anyone with a chronic illness get trained and know the signs and be able to help them and be a support.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that was good. Listen, if my girl didn't drop some knowledge today, I mean, I hope everybody is encouraged.
Yes,
you know, and yeah, you can do it. You can make it.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
You've learned a lot about a lot of information of how to advocate. So now do you know why I said the resilience, the strength, the patience for my girl? Okay. She is all of that. But I just appreciate you.
Thank
you know,
you.
agreeing, coming on the, you know, show and really sharing your truth and your journey that I know that's a continuous journey. I'm so proud of you again, sis.
Thank you.
I can't wait till this center opens up.
Yes, yes.
She gonna come back on and talk about this at-risk youth center that will be opening it up. You know, I'm so proud of her for pursuing God-given calling, all of that. So in closing, don't forget to breathe. And as you breathe, know that you are God's greatest creation. So go out and pursue your calling and purpose unapologetically, because someone is waiting on you. I hope that you experience God's love, joy, and peace. Be kind to yourself and others. And always remember to take care of each other's hearts and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Peace, my friends. Until we meet again, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.